We're not. Now we are.
Now we're live. Welcome to the latest episode of Floor's Yours, an extension of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. You also might be listening to this on the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. Make sure you download the Dash Radio app and then search for Nothing But Net. You'll find us every day from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's Monday through Friday Eastern time. If you're listening to us on the West Coast, you want some Heat Talk, we're on from 7 to 8 a.m. Also check out 5reasonsports.com, 5reasonsports.com. Our guy Brady Hawk posting a couple stories a day there. Every time the Heat have these 2 Zoom calls, or 1 Zoom call, but the 2 players and Eric Spoelstra, he gets his 5 takeaways up there in about 15 minutes. So make sure you check that out, especially as the real games start on Saturday, and I'll be posting some stuff up there as well. Also, want to thank our sponsor, Biscayne Bay Brewing. You'll be hearing a lot more about them going forward. All right, today, and for those of us who are listening to us on the audio side, I've got Alex Toledo on my right with his impeccable timing. He was on time today, so many claps there. Greg Sylvander right above me. He's right above me. I'm not hearing anybody. It's probably going to be my problem here. And then Alf and Sydney up there. We've got the T-shirts on. What do we got? I'm wearing, well, first, Alf's wearing the 5 on the Floor logo shirt, as is Alex. I have on, Manny switched to me. Manny Chang is producing tonight, the Bubble Dribble shirt. You can still get these for they keep discounting these over on our pop-up shop for $13. So you can get these shirts for $13. And then above me, Greg Sylvander with Black Lives Matter, the official light-skinned opinions shirt.
LSO, baby.
LSO. I don't know who I can hear and who I can't hear. I can hear Greg, so I'm going to start.
Nobody else has spoken. That's the whole thing.
I hear Alf. How about Alex? Alex, give me something.
You hear me? You hear me?
He's the one I don't hear.
You guys, does everybody else hear me or no?
Yeah,
I can hear you.
You got to go in and you got to go out and come back in.
All right, so so I'm going to throw out a question. I feel like I have to do this every single time. I'm going to throw out a question, but mostly we want this to be about listener viewer questions today. We have talked about everything. We've been going 3 to 5 times a week, 5 times lately, leading up to the Heat's restart, which is Saturday. Right now, as we're doing this, the first official restart game, the Pelicans are beating the Jazz, who seem to miss Bogdanovich quite a bit. So we're watching that. Zion, obviously, is playing tonight. And then we've got Lakers-Clippers coming up after that. And then Heat-Nuggets on Saturday. I will throw this out to you, and then I'm going to disappear, come right back. Greg, single most important thing that has to happen for the Heat, for them to surprise people and maybe go further than the general public thinks. And it could be anything. It could be matchup. It could be a player on their team. It could be some other circumstance. Single most important thing.
Wow. I'm going to say that the shooters shoot to their regular season percentages. That's going to be, or even better than the regular season percentages. That's going to be the number one thing. Obviously, I think everybody probably wanted me to say something about Jimmy's shot. I don't think it's about Jimmy's shot. I think it's about Duncan shooting 45% from 3 and Tyler and these guys, Kendrick Nunn getting 36. That's probably the biggest element for me because this team is kind of living and dying by the 3.
I disagree with you there. And I know it's not going to sound new coming from me. And I believe North Star 1 on the comment said it. Defense. Like, if they can't stop speedy point guards, like the Kemba Walkers of the world, are going to tear them up. And it's disheartening to me to see how bad they were against Ja Morant. With time to prepare, time to practice, I'm worried about their defense because they can score. Scoring the other day against the Grizzlies wasn't a problem. They could score all day long. They could shoot all day long. They have shooters. Despite what some 7-foot guys out in Portland might say, that he got shooters. You know what I mean? They can score with the best of them. That's one thing that's weird about this team because we've been complaining about their offense for years, and their defense has always been on point.
It flip-flopped.
It flip-flopped this year. Like, they literally, like, somebody posted
first in true shooting percentage this year.
Yeah, they're
All year.
amazing offensively, but like somebody who I don't know who tweeted out, or maybe somebody retweeted some old Justice highlights of him just locking up Chris Middleton, and I said it in the chat we're all in. I said, "Is there a single guy on the Heat right now that can do what Justice did in that sequence on a consistent basis?" I'm not talking about DJJ for a couple of possessions, Jimmy when he's not being asked to carry the offense. Outside of Bam, they don't have a single guy defensively that just can lock somebody up. And I think that's the thing that scares me the most about the Heat in the playoffs.
I mean, I agree with you there because I think the perimeter is the problem for them. Like we've talked about it a bunch of times at this point. But the guys they traded for, I like them. I like them, right? I like Crowder. I like Iguodala. They're all good defenders. Solomon Hill. These guys are solid defenders. The thing is, none of those guys are point of attack defenders either, right? I think this is all going to end up coming down to Spoelstra, really, because at this point with this roster that you have, it's about cross matching, right? It's going to become a strategical thing, like Nikias was saying in the deep dive he did the other day on the Heat's defense. It really is going to come down to cross matching, like I mentioned before. The idea of putting Jimmy on a guy, to prevent him from getting hotter if he's already hot. They're gonna have to do stuff like that, right? Like they're gonna have to be really creative with defensive matchups. I feel like at this point,
you're gonna have to hide Goran and Nunn. Like you're gonna have to.
That's the thing. The reason why I went 3-point shooting is because ultimately I don't think they're going to be able to fix the point of attack stuff, and I think it's going to hinder them no matter what. So at that point,
people.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, the best defense is going to be offense. So that's why I'm going in that direction.
But I agree with Alex there. I think. And like, listen, I've been hard on Solomon Hill, but like guys like Solomon Hill should have been on John Morant, Jimmy Butler. Yeah,
but Alf, look.
What was the alternative?
No. But here's the thing, and this is the problem.
Derek, play Derek.
Right, play Derek. But this is the problem with this line of thinking.
But it's a scrimmage.
It's not. No, not that. The problem with this line of thinking is if you have to go to your 12th man to slow somebody else down, you're not winning anything anyway. That they're gonna have to get this done, and I think Eric knows that by his players who he wants to play the most playing above their heads defensively. You can only look. I mean, if you're gonna play Solomon Hill, you're taking a really good offensive player off the floor. That's my problem.
My thing wasn't necessarily Solomon Hill per se. My thing was Nunn and Goran, just like Alex was saying, cross matching. Like Nunn and Goran were not doing anything against Ja Morant. So guys like Solomon Hill is kind of what I'm saying. Guys that aren't necessarily playing point guard on offense need to switch up on the best offensive player.
But Alf, then can't you? But, okay, but I understand that. But
Andre Iguodala, Jay Crowder, like all these guys just need to cross. They can't. They got to do things really creatively defensively to keep up with some of these other teams.
I get it, but here's the thing. Look, ultimately, your best players are going to have to take those assignments. And so ultimately, if you're going to advance deep into the playoffs and you have a team that you can't hide someone on, and the deeper you get in the playoffs, the harder it is to hide someone, right? Like, I mean, because even if you're hiding someone on someone who's not, an off-the-dribble threat, there's still going to be a shooting threat like Milwaukee, okay? There's no one to hide someone against in Milwaukee because –
I just think you take it at that point.
That's what you do. But I think ultimately what you may have to do is say, okay, Jimmy or Bam, you're gonna have to take the two toughest assignments, and we're gonna have to find a way to compensate by giving you a little bit of relief on offense. Maybe the ball needs to be in Goran's hands more on offense then, okay, to give Jimmy a little bit of a break. I think ultimately, or Kendrick, they're gonna need to take pressure off Jimmy because you asked the question, Alf. Who on this roster can do it? Who can be Justice? It is Jimmy, okay? But he can't do it while he's dribbling the ball up the court on every freaking possession.
And getting 23 a game.
Getting 23 a game.
Would explain why
they're better rebounders.
Would explain why Herro's getting some of those reps, huh?
Right. I think that Eric is trying to distribute some of this stuff. He'll try to distribute some of it between Dragic, Nunn, and Herro to give Jimmy a break. And don't think that after 4 months and all the conversations that Eric and Jimmy have had, that hasn't come up, okay? Like, we need to find a way to use you the best possible way we can. We want you to be a facilitator. We can't have you do everything anymore. And I think then we'll see him flourish a little bit. I'm with you, Alf, but I just think it's not Solomon Hill specific, but if we're talking about Solomon Hill, and I asked DJJ today about defending the point of attack, he says he wants to defend the best player on the other team. That's fine, but when you're playing DJJ or Solomon Hill or one of those guys heavy minutes, you're not playing somebody else who can score.
I keep bringing up Solomon Hill because I feel bad about some of the things I've said in the past.
Yes, I know. That's why.
Let go of that guilt, Alf. Let go of that guilt.
that guilt is holding me back, baby. Like it's just I've been hard on Solomon Hill, and he's a solid defender. But it's just like you're saying, Jimmy's going to have to take on a lot of that responsibility. But this team has shown that they have guys that can score all over this offense, right? So Jimmy can take more of a. A lot of people are like, we need the Heat need to fix Jimmy's jumper in the playoffs. I don't think that's it. I don't think it's about Jimmy fixing his jumper or them scoring or offensively or anything. I think it's about Jimmy taking on a bigger role defensively, just because he's the guy. He's the perimeter defender outside of Bam that can do it.
I think Bam. Don't underestimate. Like Spoelstra, if Jimmy has to be the guy to shoulder the burden on offense and they run into a situation where some of the young guys are struggling and Jimmy just has to literally take over, I wouldn't discount Bam Adebayo being a guy that they go put on somebody that you would never expect to see him guarding for extended stretches.
But how small can you go with him? In other words, like, I mean, we've
Steph
seen him
Curry small.
I mean, for how many possessions, though? Like, I'm just saying, like,
I know.
I mean, you could do it in spots, absolutely, and I think it does make sense. And obviously, you know, the way that he guards guys on the perimeter can work for some possessions, but I don't think it's something you can go to all the time. Who did I miss while I was absent here? Who else? What was the most? Anybody not pick their most?
I don't think Alex gave his take. Yeah. I talked a lot.
I spoke a lot too, but I was basically backing you up there. I was going to go with defense as well, just because I kind of trust their shooting already, right? And maybe we could be taking it for granted, right? Who knows? But I just trust Duncan Robinson that much. I trust Nunn. I trust Dragic. I trust all these guys to keep, you know, performing well in the roles that they've been given. All of those guys have been slotted in perfect roles. So I think that's why I trust the shooting part of it. As you know, with Jimmy, really all it is him being able to hit the mid-range jumpers when teams duck on him in the final minute of a game. That's all we're really talking about here, right?
Yeah. See, I agree with you.
Maybe like once or twice in a game, but like that's not really the important part. It's really just the threat of it there. You got to scare somebody a little bit, but it's the defense though.
For me, the Jimmy offense is like when all they're doing is shooting threes for like 7 straight possessions. And somebody just needs to get in the damn paint and make something happen. Like that's when I want to see Jimmy take over. Last 2 minutes, last 1 minute of a close game. That's when I want to see Jimmy take over more. And I think we talked about it in the past. Where like we would like to see more aggressive Jimmy, but we're starting to see the fact they don't need Jimmy on offense that much.
They just really need him for free throws. They just needed to go to the lane, like you said, and just get some free throws.
There's not a lot of guys that give you relief points on this team when the shooting goes cold for a few minutes, right?
Oh, so yeah, we got a donation.
Got a donation. Thanks, Ryan, for the Subway. Appreciate that. We'll be able to get the cookies with that, too.
Another comment from a listener, a friend of the show, Tracy Shields, T Shields on Twitter, says that Spo should mix in the zone strategically to save Jimmy's legs. I think that there's some validity to that in trying to get him a breather here and there.
Yeah, no doubt.
We're going to get so much zone. I'm saying that right now, and I feel really confident about it. I think because of all the defensive issues we're talking about, I don't think it's going to be something that they, it's not going to be their main defensive scheme because we know that's the drop. They're going to go with switching sometimes when they get that bench lineup in, but they're going to use that zone a lot. Watch.
We thought Jay and Iggy were going to fix some of these problems, right? That they wouldn't have.
These guys are still there. Yeah. They still got the same guys that were giving them the problem.
Exactly.
Because they're not defending the point of attack. That's the thing.
The guys they traded either weren't playing or weren't the problems defensively. So
and because you don't have any point of attack defenders, that's why you go to the zone. You take the pressure off of a Dragic or a Nunn.
But then he's going to play a lot of zone, but just to cycle it back, this does raise a question because Eric decided to go to this. We talked about it at the time. They decided to go to this very, very early in the season. Okay. I mean, they did a lot of it last year too, but they sprung it on Philadelphia basically in game 2 of a 4-game season series. And I said at the time, as much as you want to win these games, is it too early to be showing it this much? Because we saw that Philadelphia, then started working against it regularly right after that. Now, it didn't work in the 2 other games against the Heat, but the Sixers have done it.
Shoot.
And right, but they can a little better now with Milton playing. But now you've got all of these other teams that have been running more zone, running against more zone in practice, which is something
Maybe that's why they were
talked about
with
5 on the floor. Well, perhaps. I just wonder if Eric went to it. You have to take care of your own team soon. I did find it interesting. Take care of your own team first. I did find it interesting today where, I did ask him about whether what he had for a plan. He said he had a loose plan, but he's willing to adjust to it. I think the loose plan is what we saw in the 3rd preseason game, which is basically he's got 2 5-man lineups with, I think DJJ is the wild card, okay? And basically to guard on ball. But I think that there are certain guys.
The zone is the wild card as well.
The zone, but I also think there are certain guys that may get a little bit of a quicker hook. I think he's going to have a quicker hook with Myers if it's just not working against certain teams. I think he's going to have a quicker hook because now he trusts Olynyk more than he did before. I think he's going to have a quicker hook with Nunn. And I think, and I know this goes counter to everything I've said for the past month, but with the point of attack problems being such an issue, he may have a quicker hook with Goran. I didn't think so. I thought he was going to trust Goran more than others, and Goran talked today about how he's ready. But we've all kind of identified he's sort of the biggest problem at the point, at the head of the snake on defense. And if Eric's identifying that as the biggest problem, I might have been wrong about how much he goes to Dragic.
Listen, I think you mentioned something about pulling the card too early. I think the zone is something that's thrown out, so that's why he was comfortable. What if it's because he's got another card to play that he hasn't played yet? And it's the lineups that we've talked about, man. Something about it is like, why haven't we seen that yet? It seems like so logical with Jimmy at the point, or maybe Jimmy and Herro, right? And then you size up from there. Maybe you go 2 other wings and Bam, or Jimmy, Duncan, Jay, Andre, Bam. You get what I'm saying? Those lineups where you're going slightly bigger on the perimeter, like that's the one thing we haven't seen. We've seen lineups with Derek at the 5. If I would have told you before the bubble which one of those things were more likely, Derek at the 5, right. Like not a crazy thing with how many bigs they have. Like what? Like,
but Alex, his history though is sometimes not to play the lineup you think that's coming, even if that lineup has success in limited doses. I'm gonna go back. Remember, early in the Big 3 era, and of course Miller got hurt and Udonis got hurt. But the big talk was this Big 5 lineup they had, right? The Big 3 with Mike and UD. And when he played that lineup killed it. It killed it. And he never played it. Like we were always like, why isn't he playing this lineup more when they're all healthy? And it was like he was saving it for certain situations that sometimes never came. And you're like, why is he? He's playing Joel so much. He's playing Z so much. He's playing Bibby or Chalmers so much. Why not just roll out UD with Mike if they're both healthy? And he didn't do it. I think in this case, I do think, but we have seen an experiment, but I do think Iguodala, Crowder, Jimmy, Bam, with Duncan, okay, is probably that lineup. That's probably it.
That's the trick up the sleeve.
That might be the what do they call it? The Hamptons 5 lineup or what?
The death lineup.
The death lineup. That might be it.
The Tootsie's 5.
The Tootsie's 5, right? Exactly. But we didn't see it. Do we see that lineup yet? We have not seen that one, right?
I don't think we have. They've been all the lineups have had none. I feel like none or Dragic has been in. This last game they've had a lot of none and Dragic in the last game. Like they have not gone to a non-traditional point guard very much. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what they're going to have to do because they don't have guards that can defend very well. And
is this affected at all, guys? Kemba Walker said today that this is the most frustrating injury that he's had in his career. Kemba has not been a guy who's been banged up too much, but you start to look at the point guards in the East. Okay, we were scared of Kemba. You're a little scared of Kyle. You're not really scared of Bledsoe, although there's a really good piece about Bledsoe that was out today. People should take a look at it, which gives him a little bit more credit sometimes than he's given. Wouldn't see him on paper to be scared of Shake Milton. I mean, I think against all of those teams, if Kemba's limited, then maybe you can play them a little bit differently than you would otherwise. If he's not going to be 100% for a while, I think that one matters. And again, they're going to see Boston. They're going to see Boston soon. So you look at that game. Let's go through some of the games though and see how they may match up. Okay, particularly the first 4. And thanks, Oscar, for joining us. Let's start number 1 with Denver. Okay, Matt Moore was on our podcast from HD Basketball. HP Basketball. I really would recommend people listen to it because the breakdowns were great. Alex and I were on with him yesterday, but he talked about how banged up Denver is. They can't even find 5 healthy guys.
It's true.
I mean, they're a team you could go unconventional against, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I think you may see some of it in game 1.
They don't have the speedy guys that scare you.
No, and
You
also
say that, and then Jamal Murray is 24 in the beginning of the second quarter.
Yeah, I get it, but he's not. It's not the John Morant style of play that scares you to death, right? Or a healthy Kemba Walker style of play. I'm not saying they can. I'm not saying they have guys that can contain Jamal Murray, but they have a better chance than they do against some of these other guys.
Well, they're going to play bigger too. They're going to play bigger.
The other thing,
you throw Jimmy on Jamal Murray in this matchup, right? Wouldn't that make sense? Or do you just keep him on Gary? Wait, Gary Harris is not even playing, right? I don't even think he's healthy.
No.
Yeah, no, he'll be out. They're still easing back a couple guys, but Denver also has had patches throughout the season where they struggled to defend the 3. So I'm gonna go back to my key of the bubble and say that's something to watch for as well. I'm not letting it go.
It could be. The other question, of course, is how much we'll see Bol, and Matt thinks it'll be in kind of very limited.
Oh gosh,
very limited doses. But let's get to Jokic. I mean, Bam guarded Jokic some. Myers is probably going to guard Jokic some.
You put Myers on Jokic and just let the thing with Jokic is like sometimes you'd rather just let him score in the paint, and not create for other guys. You know what I mean? Like put a guy, just make him work. Myers is going to make him work because Myers is a strong guy, but Myers is not going to be able to stop him. But you almost rather just let Jokic get his. And
the thing is, that he wants to pass it, so it's like Myers. You almost want him to shoot because it's not what he wants to do.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. You just let Myers guard him, and then put Bam on Milsap, so just shut Milsap out, and then you deal with the guards as they come. But they'll be less effective without Jokic creating for everybody else. So
they still don't have anyone to stop Bol. So that's a major issue as we go into this. Don't forget.
Could you imagine Heat fans apoplectic if Bol goes for
like 35?
I want Bol going for 40 and 10. Like I just
that would be pretty funny. That would be pretty funny.
You always wish for anarchy, Alf.
This
have a good time on the timeline with that one.
This question comes in whether or not. And guys, keep sending in the questions. We're going to try to get to them here in the last 15, 20 minutes of this. This question comes in about Boston and whether the Kemba thing is a smokescreen. We've talked a lot about smoke screens and all the rest of this, and teams may be throwing things out there because they're together in the bubble and information is getting out, so you want to throw people off. I don't think so, though. This was pretty well reported in Boston that his knee has been a problem for a while. He's not the type that talks about injuries unless it's something significant. I do think it's something.
This was going on during the season too.
This was going on. This is something they've been nursing for a while. So no, I don't think so. I've actually been a little bit surprised, to be honest, that Eric has been so open with information comparable to usual. He really hasn't hid a whole lot from us. I mean, obviously the Bam and Nunn disclosures about COVID, but that was more privacy related. They really hasn't hit a lot, but. I think the Kemba thing is legitimate, and I think it's one of the 5 biggest storylines in the Eastern Conference because in a lot of ways, he's what makes them different because he can take advantage of the opportunities that the other 3 guys create. All right, let's get to some of the other matchups starting on Monday. They got Toronto Monday, right? It's Toronto Monday, and then Boston. That's the one I'm trying to get to if my test comes back in time. And then they got Boston after that. The Toronto matchup, we saw Bam kind of take Siakam out the last time. That he played.
It's an understatement.
Right. I mean, Siakam's so important in what they do now. Toronto, in a lot of ways, kind of them and Miami are kind of mirror images, and that they can play a lot of different guys that can hurt you. Van Vliet scares the hell out of you. They've got a lot of guys who can hurt you. But in that matchup,
Ethan, it's funny that you look at the Raptors and call them a mirror. I mean, they're both deep teams for sure, and they're both teams that are like offensively sound. Like you watch them and you're like, yeah, this team moves the ball. They're not. But the Raptors have a full rotation of two-way guys, man. I'm looking at that. Damn, give me some of those defensive-minded players right there. That would be nice. Like,
Well,
Van Vliet, you want to talk about somebody that we haven't really talked about as a free agent.
About to get paid.
I mean,
but he's gonna get paid by them though, isn't he? He's gonna get paid by them.
I think so, which makes the Lowry situation particularly interesting because what are you going to invest 45, 50, 60 million dollars in the point guard position?
I think you might have to. I think you might have to if you're them, and they've been so good together, and both of those guys are such good players. The
thing about Toronto is that they have a couple guys, and I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Chris Boucher.
Boucher is another of their finds, yeah.
I think that like there's going to be a guy like that could come out of nowhere and we'll be saying random scrub heat killer kind of situation. So like that's the one thing about Toronto is that they always have a guy you don't expect that comes out of nowhere and performs. So that's another added element to kind of make me want to avoid them, hopefully.
But the difference between them and what we talk about with random scrub heat killers is that the guys that Toronto has that do that against you end up becoming really good players. Like,
this is true.
You know, when we think of random scrub heat killer, it is the guy who we've kind of decided is not a very good NBA player.
Marcus Thornton.
Right, who has a moment against the Heat.
Well, no, remember the original random scrub heat killer was Paul Millsap.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, that's when we were a cocky Heat fan. And
that
was the original when all of a sudden
he was not hitting threes, Alf. But Alf, yes.
Listen, I thought it was Wayne Ellington. I thought that was
no. Random scrub heat killer start. Listen, as a president of Heat Twitter, can you guys listen to me?
I'm not giving this. I mean, presidents can be and should be impeached, right? I'm not.
RSH.
Wow.
RSHK.
This is worse than selling secrets to the Russians. I'm sorry.
RSHK started with Paul Millsap hitting 2 3-pointers for his entire career, and then going off for 6 in an overtime game. I think it was against the Heat. Like that's where random scrub heat killer came from.
So, I was at that game. I can confirm that happened.
I was too. I was too writing about it. But he was a good NBA player before that. The definition.
I'm just saying where random scrub heat killer came from.
I'm gonna pull this on Twitter because
How are you gonna? I was one of the people that created this.
I don't care. I don't care. I'm
not saying that he is or was ever a scrub. I'm just saying that's when people just started getting like, yo, how are these guys just having career games against the Heat all the time? And Paul Millsap was the OG. This guy does not shoot threes, and all of a sudden he's 6 for 8 in a random ass game.
I know what he did in that game, but I'm going to give you I'm going to give you a few that were better that year, okay? Because they were not as good NBA players. John Henson was one of them. I remember John Henson had 22 rebounds against the Heat, and then LeBron came in. LeBron came in the next, after the next John Henson game, where he had 1 rebound, and was like, "Why the hell does this always happen to us?" LeBron was tracking random scrub Heat killers to see what they did the game after they played against the Heat.
They tried to trade for John Henson multiple times too,
just to get him to stop doing it to them. But there are Marcus Thornton was another one.
The Heat need to get Vucevic then.
Who else have we had, Greg? Greg, who else have they had? They've had a bunch.
Marcus Thornton, I already said.
Wayne Ellington.
There's probably 3 other Brooklyn Nets that I'm not thinking of currently. A New York Knicks or 2. But no, I'm drawing a blank.
Who was the white guy, the frat bro on the Knicks? That was one of the reasons that 31 and that 30
Dwayne Wade's teammate. Dwayne Wade's team.
No, not even him. I'm talking about the 30-11 team that lost to the Knicks that
guard, that little guard.
Baker. He looked like he did keg stands at halftime. I'm not gonna lie.
Ron Baker?
Dude. No,
Ron Baker.
Yes. Ron Baker
with the moppy hair.
He lit the Heat up in a game they needed to win. It was. The team that went 30-11 in the second half, Ron Baker.
Hold on. Did you guys not watch Ron Baker in March Madness in Wichita State?
And he never did that again.
It was him and Fred VanVleet.
Until the Heat needed to make the playoffs, he never did that again. That's the whole point.
But I want to thank Benjamin for putting this comment up because the guy was escaping me. The guy this year was Garrison Matthews.
Oh my God!
Shout out to Benjamin. That's
a good one because I forgot that one. But there were so many. I mean, you go to the Big 3 era. There were so many guys, and now they're all kind of slipping my mind because they were never that good to begin with. This was happening pretty much every single game. There was some guy who had a career high. Yes, I remember the 6 threes from Ellington, but there was some guy who had like a career game against him, and then you literally never heard from the person again. And it mostly was like 2 guards, just like random 2 guards.
Giancarlo Navas wrote about this on Miami Heat Beat a while back. I'll have to dig up that article and get all the names for us. I'll tweet them out.
Yeah, we need the all-time random scrub.
Oh man, shout out to Gary Neal. Oh my God.
God.
Gary Neal. Yeah, Gary Neal was a good one.
All-time great against the Heat.
But was he a scrub? Was he again? He was
never even like that good as a role player like the rest of.
Shout out to Fez, Gerald Henderson.
It's not like Danny Green is like primetime 3-and-D guy. No, Gary Neal was never even that good like for the rest of his career. The guy was just. Oh my God!
He got Euro. Man. Dwayne Wade erased everything by Euro stepping the hell out of his ass. So at least we got that back.
I feel like I've just wiped this all out of my memory because this is all I used to write about, and now I can't remember anybody but John Henson and Wade Ellington. It's
Anthony Tolliver's Griffey 55 just brought this up. He has never missed a 3 against the Heat ever. Someone needs to look this up. This might just be an Alf's eye test.
No,
I tried to sign him too.
They tried to sign him many times actually. I didn't realize he was a Grizzly until I saw he's one of those who he played for guys.
Yeah,
like you don't know
he's played for every team except the Heat.
I thought he was still in Portland.
So did I. You never know where that guy is. Houston's had a bunch of them against around the years. Like they've had a ton. All right, let's get back. I'll throw this one out on Twitter because I'm not going to give you Paul Millsap as a scrub. I'm just not. I acted out of character that night.
He started it.
He acted out of character that night. That's all he did.
Okay, that's where it comes from.
Paul Millsap. We got to talk about him as a free agent.
We do. Well, actually, it's interesting to talk about this because we're going to see in the first 2 games 2 of the guys that we've talked about on the pod. So let's throw this out again. Paul Millsap versus Serge Ibaka. We devoted 30 minutes to this. You can have one for a 1-year contract with this team.
Millsap.
Easy. It's Millsap.
Easy.
I mean, honestly, the one thing with Ibaka is like he's a little bit of a better rim protector. It's always been his thing, and I think that would be cool to because you can kind of that's one positive of playing him with Bam that you don't really get from Millsap, the rim protection. But Millsap is just an all-around better player on both ends of the floor, I think.
Yeah, when we did that pod, I said Ibaka because of the things you just referenced with rim protection, and I don't think that the recipe for success is having Bam be the best rim protector on the floor. I just don't because he's so good away from the basket defensively. But the more I unpack that, I feel like Paul Millsap is just so good at all the other stuff, and it's just a better overall player and would fit in with those guys. So I'm going Millsap. I'm switching it up.
Yeah, I agree. I think Millsap, just because I think the him next to Bam, even though I do like a real rim protector next to Bam for a limited number of minutes, like it that is really, really, really appealing. But just overall, like Millsap is such a good defender, such a good team defender, and between the 2 of them, I think they'll do enough to stop guys from even getting to the rim. That rim protection won't be as much of a problem. Like we always used to talk about with Whiteside, part of the problem was like guys were just getting to the rim too much. And so it looked like he was a great rim defender, but the problem was guys were getting there too much. So I think with those 2 guys out there, like you could do enough that the whole point is that guys don't get to the rim. And if you're facing up against another big in this day and age, you almost want them to go ahead and get theirs, So I think that Millsap and Bam together is a much better offensive combination, and defensively the drop off isn't big enough to justify picking Ibaka over Millsap.
I'm gonna go the other way. I still think it's Ibaka, and I'm a big Millsap fan, but I think Ibaka, like I said, gives you something you don't have already on the roster, and is also, I believe, although we probably would need to see a birth certificate, younger than Paul. And I do think that Paul feels to me like a final piece on a.
Alf, is he allowed to say that?
I'm allowed to say that. Okay, Luol Deng and I had many conversations about this. Paul,
he pulled the Luol Deng card.
I did. I mean, you can pull that card out of anywhere. That gets you.
I just said to ask.
Just say, I know Luol Deng. I can speak about Africans. That's how that works.
I don't know if you could have. I don't know if you should have said that, but
maybe not. Maybe
you
not.
were okay up until that point.
Maybe not. Maybe not. I appreciate that. We're just talking about 22 on the Heat. That's it. Other things we shouldn't get into tonight. Milsap feels to me like a final piece on a big three team.
I think you're right.
Ibaka feel like he just a guy fits the culture. Plug him in like a Shane Battier, Ray Allen type who's been around and okay, he wants to get his ring and here you go. Ibaka feels like there's more growth there that you still can get, and his last 2 seasons have been pretty damn good. I would say Ibaka. The other thing about it is taking Ibaka hurts a rival in the Eastern Conference, whereas Millsap is someone out west. So
you convinced me. I'm going Ibaka again. I'm switching up again.
There you go. We're 2-2.
It's crazy. I was about to say, like, as we were talking through this, I kind of started to think, damn, Ibaka might be cheaper, and the rim protection thing is something that I really think would be nice for him to have again. I feel like I'm selling myself into the idea of Ibaka, and I look at him. He's a good player. He's been good for the Raptors, right? He's been pretty much just as good as ever. The one thing is he doesn't have that athleticism anymore, and we're gonna end up looking at him like, damn, we forgot that his legs are not that much faster than Myers and Kelly.
All right.
Listen,
go ahead.
Whoever's cheaper is actually the real answer.
Well, that's a good way to evaluate a lot. That's a good way to evaluate a lot of things.
Hold on. What if we threw a third guy into there? You want to talk about
like don't get married? It's cheaper to say single. Sorry,
I set you up for that. There you go.
What if you throw in a Marc Gasol?
Okay, that's interesting. Can I get to something that somebody put on there? They said we need rum protection, by the way, which we do on this particular broadcast.
Against me.
Yeah, we need rum protection against Alf. Marc Gasol is interesting. He was more important to them than I thought he would be last year. Kind of thought he was cooked. And he's a very, very good positional defender. But he's not a rim protector either. I mean, he gives you right. I mean, that's never really been his game.
Really. Just because he's really like wide, but he's not so wide anymore. So I don't even know if that is helping him.
The guy is still a great defensive leader. You want to talk about all the things that we said all year about Myers Leonard being on the back line defensively. How about a guy who won Defensive Player of the Year? The season that we all thought LeBron was going to get it, like a consensus or whatever the hell.
but is Myers going to be cheaper?
Oh no, for sure. But I mean, come on, Marc Gasol is just a much better.
I think
player
everything
than
has to be
Myers,
everything has to be framed in the 2021 and what
I thought we were talking about 1 year deals here.
Yeah, we are
for all these guys.
You know what you're not considering with Marc Gasol though. Marc Gasol went to battle with David Fizdale. You don't think Spo's heard some things there?
Yeah.
Right, and that wasn't Marc Gasol's reputation, and it hasn't been since he got to Toronto. That was a weird circumstance. It was kind of like a player who didn't want to let go of being sort of the face of a town in a lot of ways because Marc Gasol really fit in Memphis, but it went really bad with Fizdale, and so that's a good point by Alex.
Maybe they'll bring back Hassan for rim protection.
Stop it. Clamped up rum protection.
I'm in.
Clamped up Embiid in the second round last year. He did actually. Gasol was very good against Embiid last year.
What about AD this summer if the Lakers get embarrassed in the first round?
No, yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Clutch ties.
The Blazers are gonna upset them.
Yeah, man.
Grizzlies. Jaws that good, huh?
Hassan is your sixth man?
I mean, I'm watching the Pelicans right now. The Pelicans could be the 8th seed.
Man.
I mean, boy, Zion just did something.
Just a bully. He's just a bully.
I mean,
Donovan's going to want out of there.
I mean,
you want to talk about that, Ethan?
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit. This will kind of be our last topic of the night. Let's talk about the Donovan Mitchell stuff because there were 2 different reports that came out today. We've been talking about some stuff behind the scenes for a while. We've touched on it a little bit. That he's been spending a lot of time with Jimmy and Bam, and we have the photos to prove it. I just and then it came out that he's been hanging out a lot with Iguodala and Crowder. I don't try to overstate these things. You got guys living in a bubble. They're not going to want to hang out with their own teammates all the time.
He was hanging out with Kuzma when he was FaceTiming Bam.
That's right, and we're not going to hold that against him either. By the way, Zion right now 6 of 7, 3 alley-oops. 2 alley-oops already, 13 points. But, when you look at Donovan, it does seem like he's sending messages. It does seem like Oladipo's sending messages. It does seem like Beal is sending messages. It does feel like they're all trying to get somewhere. and it seems like that place is here. I want to ask a Donovan Mitchell question we haven't talked about because he's going to be very hard to pry out because he's cheap. He's productive. He's the face of the franchise right now in a lot of different ways. Is he a Heat, Greg? Is he a Heat culture guy, so to speak? Because I know they liked him on draft night. I know that. Is he still?
Yes, 100%. He is that kind of counted out underdog mentality. Kind of the same deal that Dwayne had from a mentality perspective. People kind of doubted his, whatever it may be, if it's athleticism or if it's his ability to get a shot off or if he could really be as good. So I feel like he's kind of got all that going for him. There's been some, weird stuff in Utah, but there's always weird stuff in Utah. It's Utah. So I think that he exemplifies a lot of the stuff that they want to have in a player. And he also is just from a talent perspective, you can't deny what he brings that way. And the fact that he already has a relationship with Bam Adebayo and he has a relationship with Jimmy Butler. I don't know how long of a relationship that's been, but it's definitely happening in the bubble in terms of them connecting. I just feel like there's a lot of stuff where the stars can align that way and it makes sense, but it's going to be tricky because he's on a rookie deal. So he's essentially going to have to force his way out. And that's never easy to do. But if Utah loses any, leverage that way, this is the thing. Miami wants to go into a meeting with Giannis with 3 stars already on the roster. And when you really unpack that, and I keep using that word because there's a lot to unpack lately, is that you can't really get there from a salary perspective unless you've got guys like Bam and Donovan Mitchell that are just up for their first extension. So that's like kind of when you're thinking about how this works from a cap perspective, if you could go in with Mitchell and Jimmy and Bam, you then have the space to pay a guy like Giannis. So I think that's why that's an attractive option, but it would cost Herro, Kendrick Nunn, draft picks, on and on and on. So that's where it gets a little tricky.
All right. I like reading Benjamin's comments here on the air occasionally. That was a good one. We all know Utah would prefer Herro anyway. Most likely.
Give a package of Herro, Nunn, and Olynyk. They'll be all right. So it's a good enough ratio.
That's right. If you add Olynyk. I thought it was funny, too, that Dallas wanted Olynyk. It's like, how many 6'11" or up white guys can you have on one roster? Like, what is this exactly?
All of them?
All of it. Well, Donovan Mitchell, as I'm watching Drew Holiday handle right now, and I love his game, man. I love his game.
They may look at him.
He's such a great
Donovan Mitchell in the beginning of this game, by the way.
He could lock up anybody, man. Like he could lock up 1 through 3. So
let's talk about him again because we talked about him.
Wait. Can I say one thing about Donovan Mitchell before we change?
Yes.
I mean, this is something the Jazz are losing right now. There's obviously 9 minutes still left in the game. They're down 4. It's really contentious right there around where they are in the standings. You got the Thunder right behind them, tied with the Rockets for a game behind them. The Dallas Mavericks, who had one of the best offenses of all time this year, apparently, according to offensive rating. Not that far behind them. If they just get a bad match, like right now, if the playoffs were to have started right away with no seeding games, they would have got OKC, which I guess is a favorable matchup compared to getting the Rockets or the Nuggets or Dallas.
They're out.
So that's what I'm saying.
I think they're
Watch out for who the Jazz get in the first round.
I don't think it matters. I think they're out first round anyway.
Without
Bogdanovich,
their second unit is so bad.
Yeah,
it's just Jordan Clarkson and other guys who can't even.
I mean, it's putrid. Like the starters leave the floor, and then the starters get back on. And somebody just said Mitchell's looked frustrated all game. The starters get back on the floor. They look out of it. They look like just exhausted. The fact that they have,
man.
Yeah,
the starters left the floor, and they left the floor like 14 today.
Yeah.
Or like it was 23-11. Next thing you know, it was 27-23, and the Pelicans are up 4 points. Like the Pelicans just went on like a 16-0 run as soon as the starters left the floor. Like you gotta think these guys are just frustrated and want to get out of there.
But I've also thought that Dennis Lindsey did a really good job of adding to the bench the last offseason. We talked about a lot of their moves, but some of them haven't. I think part of it is Conley didn't become what they hoped he would become, or at least hasn't yet.
He has looked good. That's the one thing I will say about the Jazz. He has looked really good since
he's looked good. He's looked better
aggressive.
Of late. He started to look better towards the end of the regular season. But I think when he wasn't what they expected, it trickled down to the rest of the roster. And like I said, now you don't have Bogdanovich. I don't like their chances against any of those teams. I think to be honest, I think Houston will make it. I'm not a big Houston.
They're not
guy,
beating Houston. They always lose to Houston. That's what
but
they do.
it's also though. I just don't think there's a place for Gobert to play in that series. I think Houston ends up winning the size down matchup. I don't like them against Denver. I certainly don't like them against the Clippers if they slip to 7.
The only one I can see them really
is OKC.
beating is OKC. And OKC is a good team, by the way. That's a good team.
Chris Paul will win that series by himself. I just feel like Chris Paul will will them to a win. And I think, again, Schroeder's situation is worth watching too because they need him. He's important. They need all 3 guards. But the way that Shea is coming up, I think they're really problematic. I don't think the Jazz can guard their 3 guards. I don't think they can guard the 3 guards. All right, let's final 3 minutes here. I want to get to the single most important thing. We've talked about this stuff now for 3 months since we thought they were coming back. 1 minute or less. I'm timing you all. How far do the Heat get? Start with Alf.
He get to the second round, 6-game series against the Bucks. And they put up a great showing, but fall short. And it's going to be due to point of attack defense. It's going to be just due to the fact that they can't stop the 3 at times. And they're going to shore that up in the offseason. Not this season or maybe this season or the next season, but it's going to be addressed. And I think that's where they get.
Greg.
I'm going to go a loss in Game 7 to Milwaukee.
What round?
Second round.
In round 2.
Round 2.
The only round that they can match up with them in.
Well, how about if they get that 3rd seed? They can get it.
Yeah, they could.
Change things.
That's true. Alex?
So let me just say this, since I did have a minute and I only took 20 seconds. If they were to get out of the 4-5 part, I think that they can get to the Eastern Conference Finals. I really do.
I agree with that.
So you would be better. You feel better about the Celtics matchup than the Bucks matchup?
With the Kemba injury, yes.
Thank you.
I mean, I still feel better about the Celtics matchup than the Bucks matchup. That's why I was going to say the same thing. 7, losing 7 to Milwaukee. I think it'll be a really good series.
I think Miami's going to slip to 5 during the seeding games. I don't think it's going to matter.
Oh.
I as much as I've liked their chances and a lot, I think it's going to. I don't know. There's something about that last. I'm trying not to make too much of that last scrimmage. But
you're making too much of it.
It's the last thing you saw.
No, it's the last thing I saw. But the last thing I saw before we went to break was that collapse against Charlotte, and so I keep getting those things stuck in my head, and it was kind of
but the last thing we saw was what we've been concerned about, like crazy. Like the last thing we saw is our biggest concern personified
on steroids.
Yeah, exactly. Like so, like all of our concerns were like just thrown in our face with a full lineup. It's not like you could make any excuses.
Right.
They had, and it wasn't like they were holding their own and then like they put in Gabe Vincent and Chris Silva to start the second half. Like they looked bad the entire game. First unit, second unit, everything. They looked bad.
How about this?
So what are you saying, Ethan? Are you saying first round?
I can't. These guys are all filibustering me. Since my time is being Bill Barred here, so that's fine. That's fine.
One last thing. This is a better move by them. I didn't bad in the scrimmage. It's a better move.
I didn't yield my time to the senator from Lyft. Okay, I didn't yield my time. I'm taking my time back. Here's the contradiction that I'm going to give you. I think they're going to slip to 5. But I think Eric's going to figure some things out. I think they're going to beat Philadelphia, and I think they're going to beat Milwaukee. I think they're going to lose to Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Wow.
I
guts.
To the point of Boston. Again, Kemba's injury. We got to assume health, I guess. But I hate the matchup against Boston so much that I don't care where they play them. I don't think they beat them. I do think that Philadelphia, my guess is Embiid's not even going to play in the series against the Heat. I could see he's going to get hurt again. Miami can win that series. Milwaukee, to me, I keep coming back to this. I think that their advantage has been mitigated by the break. I think the way they were rolling, I do think some of their older guys, may get nicked up a little bit. And I think Miami is just, so I'm going purely on matchups. I like the Philly matchup. I like the Milwaukee matchup. I hate the Boston matchup. So that's where we go. And if that happens, if the Heat make the Eastern Conference Finals, Pat's going all in this offseason. All in.
Yeah.
All in. It's
If
just
they,
like
He may
if
go
they,
all in anyway,
if
guys.
they have a strong
Yeah.
showing in the second round, I mean, he's going all in.
yeah, yep. I'm with it. Ethan at 10 minutes. Stop it, Manny. So I do
You
not
couldn't say
yield
your
my
name in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, I can't do that, and I do not yield my time to the congressman from South Carolina. Where the hell are you living, Alf? I don't even know where to characterize.
Sunrise.
yours.
I'm in Sunrise now.
All right.
For all the people on Twitter that want to fight me, I'm in
Have
Sunrise.
have you lived in every city in Broward? Let's go through it. Coral Springs,
Coral
Miramar.
Springs, Tamarack, Margate, Miramar, Fort Lauderdale, Plantation, and Sunrise.
You gotta go to Dade, dog. You gotta go to Dade.
No, I don't. I won't. I've never lived south of
Opelika first.
I literally lived
Carroll City.
The apartment complex I lived in, Miramar. If you turn right, you were in Dade County.
No, you were.
As soon as you turn right, you were in Dade County.
Yeah,
and then if you turn left, you were in Broward.
And I was in Northeast Miami, so I lived on that line too, pretty much.
Yeah, I did also. All right, thanks to everybody for joining us. Follow 5reasonsports.com. I'll change my prediction by tomorrow. Check out
954 for life.
954 for life. Also, you got to check out our new Twitter account that we have basically co-opted called Clutch NBA at 5R. Everybody's showing the shirts now. Clutch NBA at 5R. They did a really cool hype video today, which, to be honest, was better than ESPN's in my opinion. And as good as Bleacher Report. So check that out. We tweeted that. It's got like 25,000 views. And I'm the one who got him to throw on the little Jimmy thing at the end. So I felt we needed to end it with the Heat. Check out all our content Saturday, live stream, Game 1. Game 1, live stream. Okay.
The whole thing or just halftime?
No, we'll do pregame it. We'll do pregame.
I just want to know. I want to know how to prepare myself.
How drunk you are?
Pre-game. Ethan tries to run my ass into the ground, man. Like I'm tired, bro.
I know.
Someone said Wayne Ellington, after research, was the first random scrub heat killer. Fez Butter, who we trust.
Yeah, he's a trusted source. Saucy Nuggets.
Fez is still wrong.
Fez is
I moved. First of all, I moved to the best Brews Room location that is on Commercial Boulevard between Nob Hill and Pine Island. That's the only one that's still run by the original Brudzinski, whatever his name was.
Yes.
The rest of them have been sold off to franchises, and hopefully if they're never going to be a
careful.
The rest of them suck. The one on Commercial is still the triple threat are still dope as hell. And shout out to Sasha. Hey, Sasha.
Say hi. Hi. She can't hear you. She doesn't have the headphones on.
We waved.
She waved. By the way, I was trying to get Brews Room as a sponsor, so I appreciate that. You guys are just like you're like anti-capitalist, like Alex.
I'm going for Duffy's, bro.
I'm the safe one.
I've been trying
Grill.
to get Duffy's on my side the whole time. I'm trying to get Duffy's.
Sports Grill. I'm working on
Sports
shenanigans too. All right. Have a great night, everybody. 5reasonsports.com. We will have more Heat coverage than anybody else. I promise you that.
Heat culture.